U.S. Gold with Kathy, the owner of U.S. Gold, and I want to ask Kathy a couple questions about how did all of this get started? Like, how did you start the one in Destin, and how did you end up out here?
Sure. Well, I came down here in '91. Just graduated University of Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah, go dogs.
Go dogs.
And I was the very first thing that they offered at the Destin Community Center. We started in January '92. And so it was just a 50-50 program. I would teach, and I would, whatever we made, we split 50-50 with the city. And it grew to about 175 kids in a year. And so then we outgrew that program, and then I moved to Airport Road in the Destin Industrial Park into like 3,000 square foot facility, no air conditioning, and open into the sewer plant in Destin behind us. So those were growing years, you know. We learned how to appreciate each step as we went along, because again, no air conditioning in the sewer plant right behind you. So it's kind of funny that now I'm teaching those kids, their kids, you know. So grandparents are coming in and saying, "Remember we were on Airport Road and used to teach us there." And then we grew to about 350 kids there, and so that's when we started competing and going against teams from all over the country in a little 3,000 square foot gym. There was no spring floor. We had to move the beams on and off the floor. You know, we didn't realize how rough it was and how hard it was until we had something more. So we appreciated all of it. And the girls did really well, and we got all the way up to level 9 with some of our gymnasts. And then we moved into the one off of 98. And that was a process. That was like 96, 97. We got in that building. And then we had our first girl get a college scholarship, University of Florida. So that was exciting too. And then we just kept growing and growing. And we tried some gyms in Fort Walton. And then I built a gym in Crestview. And then finally, after all that, this area got so much bigger. And I said, well, let's just...
you're a landmark on 98.
Yes.
Right? You've been that way.
Yes.
I mean, Destin, without that location, you drive by it and it's always been there. And
yes.
Now here you are coming to Santa Rosa Beach.
Yes. And another funny part about that building is the fact that when we got out there, remember in 96, 97, there was no Mid-Bay Bridge still. And, you know, everyone's like, oh, Kathy had such a vision. I was like, oh, well, not really. It was all I could afford at the time. So you would die if you know how much I paid for it. But at the time, it felt like $1 million. So there were still clay roads going out to it. It was not paved.
Wow.
It was not paved. So a lot of people were like, gosh, you're so far out of Destin, Kathy. I don't think you're going to make it. Blah, blah, blah. Well, we made it. And, you know, we made it through the recession. We made it through the BP oil spill. Made it through the hurricanes. You know, like everybody else has been here a long time. So it's been a test of time. And then, of course, we made it through COVID as well. So it's been every time it hits, it's like, ooh, can we make it again? And somehow we get through it. So, yeah.
You're like an entrepreneurial gymnastic expert.
Yeah, that was something I had to learn. The business side of it was definitely, and all of it's been difficult. You know, I knew the gymnastics. That was the easy part for me. So I think in my 20s, it was more of how do I speak to children, you know, that, you know, especially these new generations, and it wasn't the way you and I were raised, I guess. At least it wasn't in my house. It was a little more strict, I guess, than it is now, and more corporal punishment and that kind of thing, you know, like it was back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
And so learning how to speak to kids differently, which I learned. And then in my 30s, it was more how to deal with parents, you know. And then now it's easy. You know, it's just kind of easy. I've got it all somewhat figured out, and we just keep moving through. But I think the biggest thing is making sure that you're growing and changing. You know, there's some things that are going to work that worked 35 years ago, but there's some things that aren't going to work, and you have to recognize what's working and what's not, and making the change to meet your clientele and meet the needs of the community.
What drives you today versus all those years ago? Like what makes you what wakes you up in the morning and go, oh, I can't wait to do this? You know, what's your happy space?
A happy space? Getting to see how many kids we can touch and affect every day in the gym. You know, seeing how many kids we can have in the program so that we could have so many kids experience what we're offering, you know, and the opportunity, and trying to keep it affordable so that most kids can come to us. You know, some of these sports, especially sports like gymnastics and ice skating and golf and tennis and things like that, can get expensive for a lot of these families. And I try really hard to make sure I keep it within a manageable budget so that most of the kids in our community can afford it, which is a great thing that you guys are doing and offering a scholarship to one of the children so that they can experience this as well. And that's just really amazing for you guys to do that for us.
Oh, thank you. We're excited. We're going to be doing a program where we sponsor a child to come through and have a monthly membership. I think for a year is what we're doing.
That's great.
Right?
Yeah,
for
super.
a year. And at this amazing facility. I mean, you've done an amazing job. I walked in
Thank
here,
you.
and growing up here, as you mentioned, dirt roads.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, Chat Holly.
Yes.
Indian Woman Road. We used to come up here and do donuts down the street, just on the dirt roads, and just
Some of our roads are still clay and dirt
yeah,
here.
yeah. And when I
Yeah.
pull up in here, I'm like, oh wow, this reminds me of '98 back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And then I pull up and here this is, and then I walk inside and I'm blown away at how cool
Yes,
this is.
this is my third building that I've built from the ground up. So live and learn. Like I said, I don't learn anything the first time right away. So more mistake driven. So just, what we did right in the other buildings, what we did wrong, and then what's going to work best for this community.
That's awesome. Well, you are a ball of energy. That's exciting.
Thank you.
And final closing, what would you like to tell people about this location?
Well, first off, it's a beautiful location. It's right in the middle of Santa Rosa Beach and all of our communities out here. It's going to specialize in beginner gymnast, beginner cheerleader, ninja, and preschool and pre-K. Yes.
Check it out.
Thanks.
Thanks.